How we doing? Outstanding. You guys are so enthusiastic. I can't get over. Do you guys like your jobs? You get excited for this stuff? Let's go. What do we got? All right.
Coach, I think when you drafted Terrell Crosby, Bob Quinn might have said something along the lines that we're really looking for that position, but he was too good to pass up. Has he validated from what you've seen so far that feeling? How's he stacked up to that?
Yeah, interesting kind of, as you go through the draft and you take a look at the board and as names are coming off, certainly there's two different things that happen. There's guys that you target that you really like and that could help fill a need or a position of depth that would be really good, or guys that maybe you could take later that, down the road can develop and help your team. And then there's the situations where guys either, however the draft goes, that are up on the board are still there when you come up to pick, and you have a very high grade on them and evaluate them as a really good player. And even though the initial need may not be there, it's just too hard to pass up. And he was definitely one of those guys that we really liked. We brought him in, we interviewed him, we spent a lot of time with him. Really very smart guy. He's long, he's got really long arms, and he's athletic. And just loves the game of football. So we had the opportunity to get him and work with him. It was great. And the spring was kind of, it's like every rookie, you're kind of thrown in the deep end to see if you can swim. So trying to figure out a lot. What's been great so far with camp, when the pads have come on, we've really been able to see kind of the physical side of him and his length and his ability to kind of keep the pass rushers away from him and hold the pocket. He's still obviously got a lot to learn from that aspect of it, and we're moving him around. But that's been great.
Terry Gaskowski, obviously, I would consider Prater in that mix now too. Can you speak to the value of that in that position and having that consistency at that spot?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say all three spots. Fundamental philosophy is you can't really be good on special teams unless your specialists are good. And we have three outstanding specialists, and that's from all avenues. Truly professional guys that really understand their body. Kickers are a little bit different because during practice they may be kind of out working on their individual techniques or their, the snaps or the kicks or the situations kind of on their own, and then they're thrust into the, the action where it's going to be a critical play. Mentioning some of those names that you did, those are some of the biggest plays in the history of the games that I've been involved with, is that last play. And you're relying on entire seasons, to come down to that one play and all the pressure that comes along with it. So it's been great. Those guys have been outstanding. And I think for them, trying to get used to, I would say probably a little bit of a different sort of practice than they've been used to, where maybe they can just get warmed up and kind of get their kicks, but now trying to work the transition part of it into practice more like a game where now they have to go out and execute. Hopefully we're kind of simulating some of that, that one play pressure that we get. But done a great job. Those guys have been awesome.
With respect to last year, Kerry Hyder is coming back from a really devastating injury for a football player. Doesn't seem like you've had any kind of reins on him in practice. Just how is he coming along? Is he where you want him to be physically at this point of the offseason?
Yeah, I would say, having that injury that he did, those are real difficult injuries to come back from. It's actually an injury that you feel pain with that injury for a long time, even though your body's working and you're moving in the right direction. I thought he did an outstanding job coming back through the spring. You talk about a guy that did everything possible through his rehabilitation and working with our trainers and our strength staff to make sure he was ready to go for training camp. I think he just willed himself ready to go, to be honest with you. Most of those injuries take a little bit longer. He's obviously a tough guy. His football, he loves the game. It's real important to him. And I would say that the way he's approached training camp and he doesn't want to be out. You kind of got to protect him from himself here a little bit. So, we had 2 days of pads, 2 without. We'll have another stretch here where we'll be in pads for a lengthy bit. So we'll keep an eye on that, certainly from that standpoint. But he's done everything we've asked. It's been outstanding.
Jalen Reeves-Maven, and Bob, that's another guy that Bob said, he had worked to get a little bit bigger this offseason. How much bigger is he? How has that come along? And if he's a little more physical, what does that add to your
As a player, he's really grown quite a bit. He's a very smart guy, really very instinctual football player. Size is something that through the course of the spring and then into training camp always fluctuates a little bit. The consecutive days in a row, we finally got a little bit of heat out there the other days where we could, work and kind of, your weight's going to drop a little bit, but that's a maintenance program. But as far as just him as a player, very smart, instinctual, really grasping what we're trying to do from a defensive scheme standpoint. And the thing about him that's surprising is he is a very explosive player. Like that, you can get that short space quickness, but when he gets near you, he just has that ability to unload his hips, unlock, and hit with really good power. So we'll see. It's been good.
And Hall of Fames this weekend, you were with Randy Moss for a season. Can I just get your best, Randy Moss story, I guess?
You're definitely not going to get my best story, but I love Randy Moss. He's probably one of my all-time favorites that I've had a chance to be around. Congratulations to him. I want nothing but the best. He definitely taught me a lot about the game and just unbelievable work ethic that he had towards it. And, the thing about Randy, I'll just say is this, is as many of the unbelievable, most amazing catches you saw him make in games, he probably had twice that many in practice. It was a thing to watch. It was pretty great. So it's awesome for him. I'm super excited. I really do. I'm, really close with him and very excited for him for this weekend.
You've talked a number of times about just the value of being an educator as a coach. Technology is obviously such a huge part of education and incorporating that. We see some of the technology you're incorporating out there now, but is there one piece that you were really excited as a head coach to kind of implement in what you do in helping players grow?
It's a good question. I don't know. There's a lot of it. The technology part of the game has rapidly, changed quickly, and it just keeps adding from that standpoint. I as I got into coaching, that was kind of my niche as far as making sure they didn't fire me. It was, I had that sort of engineering background and a little bit of that, so we were kind of transferring into the different computer systems and some of the data analysis stuff at the time. So for me, that was real easy to kind of understand as I was trying to learn the game as a coach. I would say as you move up in the coaching ranks, you kind of get away from a lot of that cutting edge technology. You kind of get behind, and really what I've tried to do is get back into it as much as I can to see that there are different ways out there that other coaches are coaching and teaching the players. I think the biggest thing for us right now is we're trying to get the players immediate feedback. It's like anything when you teach somebody and they try to go execute it or learn and they make a mistake. I think that immediate correction has been proven to be the most effective, and you can educate them at a higher level. And it's just the way the brain works and it connects all those things together. The immediate impact is felt. So some things out there in the practice field, I'm sure you guys have seen, that's really what the purpose of those are, is to try to educate those guys and be able to see it on film immediately. But other than that, we're trying to use as much of the technology as we can right now as far as that's concerned. But that's really the new stuff out on the field.
Now that you've gotten to see him in pads, how do you think Frank Ragnow is fitting in? And just going back, what gave you confidence that left guard was at least the spot that you wanted to at least start him at?
I think with Frank, been a couple days in pads and really through the spring he's been pretty consistent in everything that he's done. I think it's a guy that works extremely hard, loves the game, he's physical, he's strong, but still has a lot to learn. There's so many different things in there from an offensive line standpoint that you have to learn and see it from a different perspective. The hardest thing about the offensive line is, again, I think I've said this before, is 5 guys have to see the play through the same set of eyes. So there's a lot of different things that happen with 11 guys moving across from you. So trying to put them in there and let them compete, but Kenny Wiggins, all those guys that have been in there have really done it. Joe Dahl has done a great job coming back. So it's wide open competition we're pushing. And again, just as far as the draft, I think we addressed that when we took him. We thought he was just a great player and guy that was on the board that probably we didn't think was going to be on the board when we had the opportunity to pick. And you're obviously not going to pass up on that opportunity.
Another question about the technology. So, like, right away in a practice, you have now an opportunity to show a guy, like on an iPad or some kind of screen, like, this is what we're talking about. Is that what you can do now that maybe you couldn't do?
Yeah, I would say this. It's not really perfect. You try. But sometimes it just doesn't real line up because you're trying to keep the pace of practice going. You can't stop every single play. So it may not hit 100% every time, but there is a little bit of a way out there to see the play right after it happens. Some of the guys are better at it, and part of that really is, it's very similar to the game. A lot of times guys will have a play or make a play, and they might be in between the next play out on the field, without a coach around, and they just look up at the video board, and they watch the replay and kind of they may not know exactly what had happened on that play, and they'll look up and go, oh, okay, now I got it, and it kind of triggers in their head. So we're just trying to give that availability to them so that they kind of maybe train themselves to start doing that during the game too.
I think we've gone 4 or 5 days without asking you about Matthew Stafford. I'm not sure that's ever happened before. What have you seen from Matthew in these first few days of practice?
Yeah, it's been great. Just his determination and drive to really kind of try to get to the next level as far as the understanding. I think, different shift as far as what we've been doing from overall meetings and practice and all that. His leadership's been outstanding. extremely, all the stuff we talk about all the time. I mean, he's an extremely tough guy. He's smart, understands situational football, which has been great. I really think he's also done an outstanding job of trying to, teach the other players around him. We're trying to mix some of those groups that are out there. Like we mentioned before, we have young linemen that may be mixed in there, or different guys, receivers, skill players, running backs. And as a quarterback, you're responsible for all that, and that's kind of important for you to understand the big picture concept so that you can help those guys. They might have a guy that has a question. So, you have 10 other guys around you. You're trying to coordinate all that, and he's done a phenomenal job. It's just been great as far as that's concerned. And really, with Jake and Matt also, just stepping in, we've been able to just kind of mix those guys through and keep it very much so fluid from that standpoint of practice and a repetition. So it's been great. It's all been, working in the right direction for somebody that's very determined, which is what you need. It's been good.
Thanks, guys.
Good. All right, we'll get you tomorrow. Maybe you guys will be a little bit more excited when I walk in.